And welcome to the Football 360 Show, the fastest 48 minutes of football talk on the planet. Hi, I'm JP Rock. He is Matt Bierman. How you doing today, Matt?
Doing great.
You can catch us on YouTube, Football 360 Show, as well as on X at Football 360 Show, football360show.com. Hear us on Spotify as well as Apple. Although I don't know, Matt, somebody messaged me and it's like, are you guys still on Spotify?
We are. There was, I guess, 2 weeks ago, one did not go through our service on there, but yeah, last week was on.
Gotcha. Sweet. And then, of course, you can catch us on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock on KLIS 590 AM, your Lou Info station, louinfo.com. And, of course, today's show is brought to you by Get Offered, getoffered.com. Check out the app, right? We're going to talk about that. And Game Plan Strategies Football Consulting, www.gpsfootball.org, helping to navigate football features, your path, our plan, one goal. And really, we're going to talk about both of those things a little bit later on. But basically, it's just kind of a culmination, Get Offered, as well as Game Plan Strategies. For the past 2 years, we've been talking about, ways to help people, ways to help parents and players and coaches to, navigate their football futures, really, just the things that need to be done. And I was actually talking to a couple of parents yesterday, and they were really pointing out how difficult it is. And one of their kids is already committed, but they're still worried. They're still nervous. They still, want some information. And so it's really kind of out of a necessity that both these things kind of popped up.
I would say that the vast majority of kids playing are waiting to get recruited and think it's going to happen, and they don't understand that, like, it doesn't just happen, right? It does not just happen.
Doesn't just happen. And even if you're really, really good, we talked about it before. If you're the best athlete, the best player at your school, it doesn't happen. We could throw out names out there for people, and they're recognizable names. And it has been a struggle, right? It has been a struggle for the family. It's been a struggle for the player. It's been a struggle for coaches trying to figure out what's what. And
there's it's changed
no information.
So much.
Yeah.
It's changed so much.
Right.
Hyper competitive. Kids have gotten pushed down, like to lower levels. Guys that are 2 years ago would have been surefire. Division I guys are now, FCS guys, and now those FCS guys are now Division II guys, and it just kind of gets pushed down the chain. And there's nothing wrong with those divisions, but
not at all.
2 years ago, that kid is going to be, what everybody wants to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue is like all of a sudden you got, kids that maybe have worked and thought they were going to do a lot of really good things, and it was going to be a little easier, and they put up the results, they had the size. All of a sudden now they don't have the shot, right? And the pathway is definitely different going D2 than it is FBS right out of the gate.
Yeah, it is. And so, really, it was difficult for parents and players before because they were really in the dark, just kind of at the mercy of who, was telling them what coaching wise. And so, now it's way more difficult, and you can't just say, oh man, that portal. It's more than just the portal. It's things that you didn't know about, things that you weren't doing, things that you weren't having your son do, or on every level, right? And it starts young. It starts from youth football, middle school football onwards. And so, what we do and what we're doing is being an outlet, right, to educate and inform and help parents and players understand what's going on, being advocates for them and helping them, instead of just the other guys having all the tools and having all of the answers and info, and you just kind of be. Now you have, right, advisory and consulting and, the app to be able to, help yourself. And that's really what it's all about.
100%. Like, if you don't help yourself, no one else is going to help you. Right.
No.
Like, I was talking to a guy for the high schools and a high school coach about their kids getting on the Offered app and just filling out, putting it out to the team. And then saying, hey, everybody fill out their profile. And you and I both know, like, it is haphazard with the way kids fill things out. One,
Mhm.
if they fill it out at all. And then
Right.
that's the same kid that when he's a junior or senior is going to come back and go, well, I thought you were going to help me play college football. And it's like, you did not even complete a simple task of filling out a profile form, right?
Right.
Like I'll tell you, if you get a college program sending you a request for a questionnaire or a form to be filled out, or even like a scouting service sends you something, because that goes on quite a bit. I mean, you got to be careful of some of those. But the reality of it is, like, if you can't spend the time to fill that out, like, you're kind of in trouble. Like, because
Yes.
you're not going to see the process through. You're just not going to see it through. Like, it's just not going to happen. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, JP,
I mean, it's
you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right?
correct. And like you said, if you're in school and you turn in a paper and it's incomplete, what are you going to get? Right. No different than that. When I send you something, get evaluated, don't just put your name in there. You got to do your own homework. And so that's
so like for instance, on our app, JP, like someone will go in, fill out a form, right? What they don't realize is college coaches can come in the back door and view all that, right?
mm-hmm.
So even if you're doing the free profile, right?
Yep.
Why would you not complete it to the fullest knowledge? It's your information. It's not anybody else's information. I guess the only thing that you would need to research is what your coach's email is and what his phone number is. And right, usually you have that because he communicates with you.
Right.
But it is absolutely crazy because obviously from an admin standpoint, we can see what's complete, what percentage of the profile is complete. Yes, if you're a freshman, you don't have an ACT score or SAT score. But you do most likely have film. Most likely you have your height and your weight and your GPA. Those are all things that you can fill out that are pertinent pieces of information that you can, establish and get yourself in a position to where, like, again, it's not all that's not going to get you offered. It's part of the piece of the puzzle of getting you viewed when you need to be viewed, right? And I think that is the biggest issue with so many people, is that they are assuming it's just going to happen, right? And yes,
bingo, 100%.
Make phone calls, talk to people, but if it's not a good product, right, they're not going to recruit you. Like just off of your word and my word, the film has to match exactly what we're saying. And in many cases, JP, you will know just as well as I do, there's certain kids that have what we believe is great film. We've seen them absolutely destroy at camps and combines, and you'll call coaches on them and they still don't take action on them, right?
Correct.
And that could be because they have guys they've already committed at that position. That could be because they have guys that are that person doesn't fit their profile for that position.
They have their own evaluation system, or various other things. They have to have consensus with a bunch of other coaches, or, just like with anybody else, they just don't see it. And a lot of times you and I have been, putting these guys' names out there and trying to help them. And coaches are just like, I don't know. And then you'll see them go to a Northwest Missouri State. And then the next thing you know, they excel and they're at Oregon, And
I think that right there is the cool thing about college right now, and then the troubling thing, because if you do not love football, that is a really daunting task to go to a school that you think is beneath you, which none of these schools are beneath you, right?
Right.
Because the number of times there's Division I guys that like were big time guys like that go to this big Power 4 school or a Group of 5 school, and then they end up at a smaller school, right, an FCS level or D2, and they don't dominate there. Then somebody did, and part of going back to when we're talking about promoting someone to a college, the reason why coaches are so gun shy on it is because they've been sold so many kids over the years by guys that either don't know, right? That there are guys that I know personally and I've seen over the years that have sold guys to colleges that, quite honestly, absolutely ruined their reputation because those kids got to college and did not do anything.
Right.
Right. And
And they've got so many guys in their ears doing that. You're absolutely right.
And it ruins it for the guys that are authentic. Like it's just wild. I mean, it happens so often, and you can see it coming from a mile away. Like what? That kid's going to an FBS school. Like I've watched him play 3 times. He didn't pop a single time.
Right.
And like, look, if you are a Division I FBS guy, you should be dominating every single game you're in. That doesn't mean you win every game. That doesn't mean you're not going to like have some bad negative plays. But it means you're also going to guide your team and make your team better than they would be without you, right? So like I saw a thing this morning. It was a really interesting quote. It just popped up. It was Kurt Warner, he's a really good follow on Twitter because he's always got some cool things. But he had posted something about Quincy. There was a really catch from a kid at Quincy this past week, and his son's coaching at Quincy, and it was like a one-handed, really kind of behind his body, one-hand snag, scores, and then Quincy beat, I think, S&T in maybe overtime or double overtime, something like that. But so like the next tweet that followed with that, like was he said, "Hey, I need you to understand, I threw 22 interceptions in one season. Also was the MVP of the NFL that very season."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, what you have to understand is he's like, we spend so much time focusing on people's negatives, but the reality of it is my team went 14-2 or 16-2, whatever it was that year. And we won the Super Bowl. And oh, by the way, that meant I only had 1.5 negative plays per game. Whereas he said most other position groups, there's probably 4 or 5 negatives or 3 negative plays per game, where people, they view you differently. But his point is it's all about perspective, right? Like having 1 or 1.5 picks a game, does not sound ideal. He's like, but you focus on all the negativities, like, but we were winning games and I threw however many touchdowns, right? And however many yards. So like, yes, you can view it through one lens and say, oh my God, that guy's really not what he's supposed to be. But when you and I are talking about guys that are being able to evaluate them, right? Like you look at a receiver that caught 60 balls one year and he catches 40 the next year. Does that mean his production went down, or does that mean maybe they added more receivers to the grouping, or maybe his role changed and they're not singling him out every single play, right? I mean, there's reasons for that. That doesn't mean it's less of a receiver. It means that there's probably a change, and that's where you get involved. We're talking to people like yourself, myself, or the head coach or OC, and find out what those details are.
Exactly. That's why you can't just go on production. I mean, if you just went on production, there's some really, really good high school players who've run for 3,000 yards or passed for 4,000 yards who would have been Heisman Trophy winners, but they don't even make it to college sometimes, depending upon that. So you can't just go by that. You really do have to get in the weeds, get in the details about what's really going on, and there's so much of it. But like I said, there's so many people out there trying to sell people, trying to sell players, trying to, hey, coach, I know this guy. And eventually they do become kind of tone deaf to that because they hear it so much and they have to ultimately rely on their own opinion, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. And if it's wrong, then guess what? You can have $100 million contract and get fired.
Like Brian Kelly.
Correct.
I mean, how about that? All these coaches are just going down, and it is. I mean, you got guys. I mean, and the thing about Brian Kelly, like I don't know how much.
So, I think we lost Matt's audio, or at least I did. Talking about Brian Kelly. Can't hear you, Matt. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, Matt. Guess you're solo. Are we back?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, it cut out there.
Yeah, a little bit of technical difficulty.
I'll talk to Vic about that. Sorry.
All right, all good. So we were talking about Brian Kelly, like just some of the things that I've heard over the years. I'm sure you have too. You know, he's been productive. He's won, but he's also pretty maniacal, right? And I've heard coaches complain about him, players complain about him.
Right.
And that's usually a bad sign, right? Like especially in this day and age when you get guys in a program like that where there's a lot of money, a lot of expectations, and then you don't do the things the right way, and it's just your way is the right way all the time.
Right.
Which I understand. You're the head guy. You're making all the money, all that stuff. But if you were just a complete jerk that no one wants to be around, it does not work great, right? It does not work great. And so he's a guy that, clearly did not produce to the level they wanted him to produce, and now he's gone. And so, then you start this whole 3 to 4 year cycle, right? Unless you hire Kirk Stignetti or one of those guys that's got a record of winning. Rich, we're seeing now Kalen DeBoer's kind of getting it going down in Alabama, but it's taken a little time, and people were calling for his head after a few losses.
Right.
Well,
I've never been a big fan of Brian Kelly, despite his success. I've never seen the big attraction because, like you said, I think the negatives, outweigh the positives that he's had over time. So I'm really not surprised. And like you said, I mean, it is big business, right? It's professional football, whether people want to say it or not. So there's too much money involved and flowing for them to accept, less than they expect. Which is why you had Penn State fire their coach, who's a very good coach, James Franklin, and now Brian Kelly's gone. And I mean the days of Gary Pinkel or somebody being allowed 5 years to build a program, I don't think that they do that anymore, especially not at the Power Four schools. You got to come in, you got to produce right away, and they have the transfer portal, they have tons of cash. Win now. And
too much money's being invested in, and now the schools are more invested than they've ever been, right? Because now they have to pay out a portion of their proceeds to these teams. So they had ownership before. They were making money off the talent and just making money hand over fist. And irregardless of results, they were still making money. Now results of getting into national championship and the playoffs, all that is going to affect their bottom line, right? And that's going to help them get paid bonuses and all the things that they're going to do. So I think there's a lot of moving parts, and people are just probably now really waking up to you see these stalwart coaches that have been around forever getting clipped.
Right.
In all reality, it's not like they're having horrible seasons. I mean, Mike Gundy had 18 winning seasons.
Yeah.
Right. And so Mike Gundy gets clipped. I mean, what are you going to do?
He's a man,
right? I mean, he's a man. I'm a man.
Was he 60 now, though, right? Was 40.
But you know what? He's a guy who's made a bunch of money and done really well for himself. So, I don't know what Brian Kelly's buyout is. Probably $100 million.
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's a ton of cash.
I mean, what a grift, though. I mean, you get paid out to get. Basically, I mean, the whole deal is
to go away.
Yeah, you get the whole deal is now, like, say you're like Drinkowitz, right? So other coaches get fired. So now suddenly they're rushing for you to get you sealed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you don't get to leave, right? And then if things turn south, you get rewarded on the back end because taking that money at the other school, now they're going to pay you that money on the back end when they fire you. I mean, it's unbelievable. What a good deal.
It's crazy. Speaking of which, have you heard anything about like whose possibilities are for LSU, and could Coach Drinkowitz name
I
possibly?
mean, his name's
pop
going to
up?
pop up. Any SEC school is going to pop.
Mhm.
Coach is going to pop up at all these different schools, right? Because
Yeah, I know it has at Arkansas.
they have high profile. I mean, yeah, you have Arkansas, you have LSU.
Yeah, haven't heard him mentioned for Penn State though. But
Yeah. So
LSU, I could see. Yeah,
extended and even more money to them. So, but the thing is like, look, let's be honest, Mizzou's out of the contention, right, for the playoffs,
yeah.
right? 2 losses, back
As
to
we
back,
turn to that, yep.
right? I mean, you got to beat Vanderbilt. You don't beat Vanderbilt. Unfortunate situation with Bo Pribula.
Yep.
Very unfortunate, right? But Matt Zollers is the guy that they have waiting in the wings, and now the tough thing is that where Mizzou's really in a pickle now is they had 2 quarterbacks going into last week, and now they have 1, right? Because now they're going to go to a walk-on because Horn's out, so now they had 3 going in.
Yep.
Which then leads them to probably want to next year. They're going to have to get a much more robust room. You need 3 to 4 guys for sure on scholarship.
Well, and stop up that thought for a second, because it goes back to how they recruit quarterbacks, right? And how they have recruited quarterbacks. And there have been options, and there have been local options that are pretty good. Brady Davidson was right down the road at down Providence. Weren't interested, no interest. Right now, if you take that guy and you put him into the mix, I mean, now you got 2 really good freshmen to choose from. Who's going to be the guy?
Right.
You
never know when guys get in competition with each other. I mean, quarterback's the one position that we have seen over and over again where they guys misjudge who the athlete is, right? And then there's intangibles, there's things, but just to be truthful, like I think we talked about a few weeks ago, watching Zollers warm up and watching Pribula warm up throughout the game when I was at the Alabama game, from a mechanical standpoint, Zollers is much cleaner. So he's the guy that if he moves, if he operates at the same level, from a football IQ perspective, quarterback IQ, he's probably a guy long term is going to have a little bit more success, right? Like, and he looked
not
good.
The guy you wanted this year, though.
Yeah, right. And so but was he even considered as a freshman? Were they going to just incubate him and let him rest?
Yeah,
because he's coming off a really bad leg injury that kept him out of his senior year, most of his senior year of high school.
Right. Well, they thought they had Pribula, who they paid a lot of money for, and they thought they had Horn. And we said going into the beginning of the season, you got to keep Pribula healthy or else, right? And so now we're going to see what that or else entails. Maybe Zollers comes in and he's plays like gangbusters and he just delivers. But that's a tall order for a freshman.
One positive is they're coming
right out of high school.
They're going into a bye week, right? And then they have Texas A&M, number 3 Texas A&M coming to Columbia. I think that should be obviously a monumental task. But if you're going to have it happen any week, that probably was the best time to do it, right? Because
so you got that bye.
You have that bye week, which is crazy. They've had 2 byes. I mean, this is like turning into like a super extended season. I mean, the NCAA knows what they're doing, right? I mean, they just draw it out. Get it into December, make some more money, have your national championship playoffs, the whole 9. I mean, it's a well-oiled machine. But, of course, 5 years from now, I think we're going to see a completely different product on the field than what we see right now.
Yep, it really is. So good to talk a little bit more on Mizzou. Make sure you definitely check us out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, on X at Football 360 Show, and KLIS 590 AM. Your Lou Info station on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. So Mizzou, I really haven't been checking the fan base. I don't know if you have, but is everybody ready to jump off a bridge? Or are they just kind of throwing their hands up, or do they think that what's the feel of the room as far as?
I don't know. I mean, I would say this, like. 2 losses back to back. Obviously, I think one of those should have been a win, right? I mean, that was down to the wire. I mean, both could have been wins.
Yeah.
Which then it shows you how competitive you are. But it's the same thing. I listened to a quote of, Mike Leach back in the day talking about they were playing Texas Tech was playing Texas, and people were telling him, "Oh, you almost got him. Good for you," and like Franco would say the same thing. Like, no, like not almost got him. We were playing to win. Like,
Yeah.
We're not playing to almost get them. We're playing to win. And so I think, internally, I'm sure the staff is not happy with where they're at with the 2 losses. Fan base is probably mirroring that to a degree, but also kind of having some, PTSD from like past losses.
Oh yeah. That's why I ask.
Yeah, we're okay, fine. But yeah, I think there's some optimism. At least we're not marching a guy out there. I mean, he showed some promise. I mean, Kevin Coleman, is it inches away from that thing being in the, over the goal line? I mean, literally inches. But, that's another thing too, JP. I don't know if you watched that game, but like the crazy thing is you never see pass interference called on those late Hail Mary bombs. But truthfully, no. Kevin Coleman goes in the air and he's got 3 guys around him. He definitely gets battered in the air for sure. He's a smaller guy, right? And so the argument would be, well, they're all got an equal right to the ball, but he's the receiver, and if they're impeding his progress to the ball and touching him prior to him catching it, then theoretically that is pass interference, right? So, unfortunately, you never see that called, right? I mean, fan bases would go crazy, but the truest letter of the rule, which is if you impede the receiver's progress to the ball, right? It wasn't like Kevin Coleman was bodying people out of there.
Right.
He literally had guys on top of his head and was bumping him while he was trying to catch the ball. They were trying to catch it too. But again, doesn't matter if they're trying to catch it. If he's the primary receiver and they're bumping him and moving him, and because it can go both ways. If he was doing the same thing to them, then it would be offensive pass interference, right? So, you just never see that call in those situations, right?
No, well, you rarely do it. Usually, it's big time controversy. Usually they wait until it's a very big game where there's something important on the line. For whatever reason, you're right.
Like bats or something like that. Oh, never mind.
Wait a minute. We're not talking NBA.
Yeah.
We're not talking NBA. Yeah.
Let's be honest. There's far too many coincidences in all sports that it makes you wonder.
Right.
And it makes you wonder. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts. And I do find it interesting. The NCAA just legalized college athletes can bet on pro sports.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
That's amazing. Pete Rose rolling over, and
you're playing with your good buddies, right? You're playing in a major SEC or Big Ten school, and probably 8 guys in the league, right? And now you get to gamble on guys that are your friends. Like, oh man, that's a recipe for disaster.
It's
right?
it really is
a recipe for disaster. Like,
I think it
is what it
totally
is.
Unnecessary, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it at some point. I don't know how you feel, but I'm sure you see every other commercial on TV is about the online gambling coming to Missouri.
Well, the crazy thing about it is like listening to kids. I mean, over the years, like in the last number of years, like there's high school football players that I am aware of that are gambling. Like they are flat out gambling.
Oh,
it's
hardcore
legal, like getting the gamble, and obviously FanDuel and those guys that age verify you, but there's ways around things. But there's kids that are doing, like, it was like, I forgot what the name of the app was. I'm like, oh, it's like for fun. Like this is like fantasy. Like, no.
Yeah.
These guys are betting like money. Like,
no, and it doesn't help that you're having well-known celebrities, pushing it specifically for Missouri. Like I said, every other commercial, you're seeing, music artists or former local football players, or they'd have their own podcasts.
Yeah.
Maybe we
see like how that all rolls out, right? Because then you see the lawsuits that are coming out against all those gaming apps that are like they've gamified them to the point where people are, like enticed to spend their money, right? And again, football, gambling on football, and what I know about the game and all that. Like I just, like it's been a long time since I've ever even considered doing it.
Yeah.
And
I don't even like casinos. I don't like
too many variables.
Tossing my money. Exactly. Yeah.
Especially when knowing football. Like, I mean, like truthfully, a referee could ruin that in 2 seconds. Right.
Without a doubt.
on purpose or not on purpose, right?
No matter how knowledgeable you think you are, there's too many things inside the game that you have no,
Right.
no way of knowing about.
None. And you can't control the ebbs and flows of a game, and like guys coaching different ways, or who knows what they're trying to do, right? And so
weird decisions, decide to go for it on 3rd and 10 from your own 20. Some coach might
right
might get
or
that wild hair.
Chokes, the kicker chokes for the 3rd time in the game.
Yeah,
there's so much of that goes on, but yeah, I unfortunately, I think it's just the more they see it on TV, it's going to be normalized for kids. And if they already have ways to get access to it now, when it's not legal,
they're
going to have, they're going to be getting on people's phones and they're smart. They got a lot of energy and time, and they figure out the technology things and get themselves, able to get verified, and then spend money they don't have on making money on. I watched actually a documentary a week or so ago, and it was a guy. He calls out like scammers and people. There's all these scammers that give you like the bets of the day and all that stuff, right? And this guy is a professional sports gambler, right? And so he flew out to Vegas with the guy, and to make money, like the margin was so thin, and this guy was like wagering. It was almost $1 million a weekend, right? And they were, and the profit on it was like 10%, right? And so that's what they're trying to do, is just make 10% on their money, not lose their money, keep their principal. And then, but JP, they had like 40 or 50 phones that they were placing bets off of, right? Because of if you get good, then they restrict your ability to win money, right? So if and so they have all these different phones, and they were doing it. And then the guy was like, this is just how he makes his living. So he was not like some celebrity or anything like that. So the guy wanted to point it out. The documentary guy wanted to point out and say, this isn't the guy with the Lamborghini and the this. I mean, he's eating a ham sandwich, watching all these games and placing bets and doing his research and all that stuff.
Hell of a life.
Right. And again, it's a grind. The guy looked like it was a miserable existence, but that's how he does it. And but
just make sure your kid doesn't have access to your mortgage,
right?
So they can bet your house.
Payday loan for your house.
So bye week. Then Mizzou finishes up with Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Oklahoma. So A&M and Oklahoma are going to be a little tough, and then they finish up with Arkansas. I don't even know what to expect from Arkansas. I see them play some people tough, and then they look like total dog the next week. So you don't know what you're going to get there.
JP, that's something too. So we were talking about recruiting earlier. And so everybody's worried about getting recruited and going somewhere and all that. I won't name the school, but it may have been one of the schools you just named. That a person called me, a parent, and their child's there. It was a high-level recruit. It's an SEC school. And they were looking for solutions for their player to get more of what they need, right? He needs more speed work. He needs to get a little more size. He needs to just do more, right? Because he got to college and realized oh crap, everybody's good. Everybody's fast, right? And the things that I could do in high school are good here, but they're not great, and they're not getting me on the field. And so I think, one of the conversations, the keys that came out of it was, you're doing all these things in high school, and if you're just better than other people and you're good, really good, you get to go to that next level. And so, but the things that will differentiate you once you get to college are your core skill sets, right? And your core athletic features, if you will, or your measurables, so to speak, game measurables, right? So how fast you move, how explosive you are, how well you throw a ball, how well you break on a ball, how well you catch a ball, get out of a break. All those things at some point come into play, right? And back to the guys that we're talking about that have been missold. 9 times out of 10, when I see kids that are sold wrong to the wrong level of program, is they're usually, the reason why I think that is because they're good athletes, not great. and they're good for their level in high school, but they're not worker bees. And if you're going to
Yeah.
survive in college football, where they're paying people a lot of money at every level, to some degree, you better be really good at something, right? And you better have like the ability that other guys on the team don't have, and you have to be able to work for that over and over and over. And if you don't really flash that much in high school and you're just playing and just kind of getting along and you're first team all conference and you're leading, your little group or your little conference in receptions, like it means nothing. I'm not trying to be mean. It means nothing. If you cannot do that at a high level every single week that you're playing and you don't have attributes that people are looking for, like if you're a quarterback and all you do is drop back and throw footballs, and you take a lot of sacks, they need you. If you're a quarterback that can run really well but can't throw all that well, they don't need you. Right?
Right.
To play at this next level as a quarterback, you have to be able to run, throw to your right, throw to your left, right? You need to be able to escape. You need to be able to buy some time with your feet, and you need to be able to extend plays, and you need to be able to beat, pressure. And if you can do that at all levels of the game, then that opens some eyes that people are like, okay, this guy, because look what Pribula does for Mizzou when he was healthy. He extends plays. Look at Ty Simpson, what he's able to do. He can throw the ball, but he also can get out of harm's way. Not every down.
You're not gonna be a pocket passer and play at a high level. I'll tell you that right now. It's just not there. Pro style quarterbacks, you got to be able to run. You got to be able to move. I have college coaches telling me right now, doesn't matter. You're 6'5", 6'6". That's almost a detriment because they don't think you're going to move as well to be able to run the ball as they need you to be.
Most of the guys that you see having
learn to play tight end
are 6'2", 6 foot to 6'2", right?
I would say 5'11" to 6'2".
Yeah,
right
5'11" to 6'2". You're right. That is kind of because when you're at the Manning camp, like I have a picture of my son Braden standing next to Gunnar Stockton. Right. Gunnar Stockton at that point last summer probably had 2 inches on Braden. And he's a starting Division I FBS Power 4 blue blood, right? And he is a dude. Now he's thick, he's strong, he's muscular, and he's a ball player, right? But the thing is about him is if you were to pass the eyeball test 5 years, 6 years ago, he would never have passed it. But the game has evolved so fast with all the RPO and edge play and the ability for people to pass rush. And we pay a lot of money for these big O linemen, but they pay a lot of money for those D linemen as well, right? And there's guys, schemes, all that. And there's a lot of pressures that are coming, constantly. So if you can't get away from pressure,
it makes it more difficult to stand tall in the pocket. You got to be able to move. You got to be able to find lanes.
Does their height really matter when you're running outside the pocket anyway?
No. I mean, you got to find a lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's what the best do, right? I mean, so I think it is interesting, but O-line, same thing. Like you have to have the size, but then you have to have the bend and the ability to use your hands and be able to pass set and run block and finish blocks. Like there's so much to this, and so many kids are good at one facet of their position and not all facets, and you have to be a master of all of them.
Well, and how many though don't know that? And we've had this conversation time and time again. High school coaches want to get their team ready for the next game, right? They teach as much as they can, but they're time restricted. Yep. So they're not going to have that time to make you the player that you might want to, that you maybe you want to be. But how many kids, and this better than most because of you train everybody. How many don't know what they need to do? Oh. Talk about your average guy, even the good ones, right? Because we have some good ones come in there who are talented guys who are getting sniffs from colleges. How many really talented guys don't know what to do when they get there?
I would argue 90% of the guys that get big time offers are not prepared for what they're getting themselves into when they get to college.
No.
Right. I mean, I'll give you a great example. One of the guys that did know and he was prepared when he got to college. And I think it's because of the upbringing he had in his family and who his brothers were. But how rare is it that you see a freshman start at the Division I level at any position that did not go in early, right? So if you go in like June, and then all of a sudden you have camp, and then next thing you know, this guy's starting, beating out other guys that have been in the system that are far older.
That's rare.
Well, Brett Gabbert did that, right? And he did that at Miami of Ohio, I think, for two reasons. One, I think he was a quarterback that was probably playing below where he should have been, which that's no knock on Miami. He had a great career there.
Yep.
I thought he was a Power 4 guy. But his brothers, himself, the people his support were at Elite, we all made sure that he was ready to go when he got to college, right? Scott Pingle, everything they did for him in high school, but all the preparation work he did going into that summer after his senior year, he walked in and ended up becoming a undisputed starter for them, right? And they played Iowa their first week, so he started an FBS Power 4 opponent. But on the flip side, I will not name names, but I watched I don't know what star rating this kid is, but like it's a Power 4 kid in our region, and a boy that had gone against him was like, "Hey man, he literally got me one time, offensive lineman, defensive line scenario. He got me one time," and he goes, "It was a miscommunication because the guy next to me was supposed to do something, whatever." He goes, "So he got one sack against me." And I go, well, how was his push? How were his moves? He's like, as probably
basic.
as good, not just basic, like
Yeah.
and not strong. And I go, strong, like meaning like couldn't. He's like, no, not strong at all. And I go, okay. I go, was he talking a lot? He's like, oh yeah, he talked the whole game. He goes, he literally did nothing.
Yeah.
And so when you hear that, and the kid wasn't even really like talking smack. It was just more of like, yeah, I went head to head with him. He's like, I just wasn't lying. He was not like even being negative. So my questions more were just like, okay, so I'm trying, when I'm asking those questions, I know you're doing the same thing. I'm trying to gauge, physical features do not always project outcomes of high level play, right? They just don't. And so like that, so the reason for me asking those questions was simply, I want to know how good is this guy? You know what I mean? Like I'm not an O-line, D-line guru, right? So like I'm not like really like digging into it that deep, but listening to him talk and the conversation we're having, this young man either has to kick it into overdrive, or he's going to get to college, and then it'll be a 2-year experience, and then it'll be a transfer.
He'll drop down, and really, I mean, we can talk about that another time because we're running short on time. But there's even a time frame, a timetable on when are you going to be productive in college? Are you ever going to be that guy? Are you just happy to be there, or is it time to transfer? Right.
Yeah,
that's something that needs to be talked about. But we have our district playoffs kicking off this week. Right, a lot of good stuff. Some teams having some bye weeks. We thought we could run through those just a little bit, kind of get your take on it. Of course, in Class 6, the first one we're going to talk about, Jackson, of course, won, and they have the bye week. Of course, they're going to face the winner of Lindbergh versus Oakville.
I tell you what, that's a tough. Whoever wins that, that's a tough one.
That's a tough poll, absolutely, because I think Jackson dropped 67 points on Festus.
And Festus is a good program.
Good, yeah, absolutely. So that's they're just rolling along. Jackson's got that huge offensive line, really good running back, nice little athletic quarterback, and they're just a tough program. DeSmet versus Marquette. That's a Thursday game. It looks like at DeSmet. That's a tough poll for Marquette.
Marquette's been struggling with a lot of injuries. I mean, a ton, too many to even count. I mean, that's not, they're probably just trying to get through it at this point. But I mean, they've got a lot of kids. Like at one point, it was 14 kids out. Someone told me. So it's, wow. You got to feel for those guys.
Yep, you gotta play with what you do. Lee Summit West and Park Hill South, that's pretty evenly matched game. Lee Summit West might have a little more talent. They got a couple of D1 college prospects over there. Park Hill South has a wide receiver who's had 229 yards and 233 yards receiving back-to-back games.
That's
yeah. So that's incredibly solid. Staley at St. Joseph Central. Whoever wins that's got to face Liberty, which is not a good pull. And Lee Summit North, who played last week, right? They have a bye week this week, and they play each other again.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? There's some crazy stuff going on. And of course, Lee Summit West, Park Hill South, they got to play North Kansas City. And then Liberty North is going to play Oak Park. That's going to be a good game. That's probably one of the better games over on that side of the state. That'll be, they're pretty evenly matched teams. Hickman and Helias Catholic. That's going to be an interesting game, right? Hickman was on a roll there, and I think they had won like 6 games in a row, and then they went to Chaminade and got handled by Chaminade, which congrats to them.
Yes.
J-Mo Barnes, getting more action. Isaac Hudson, those two hooking up and making some things happen. So good for them. Blue Springs Rockbridge, another pretty evenly matched team. Of course, winner of that gets to face Blue Springs South, who I know Blue Springs South's already beaten. Blue Springs South is 9-0, and they're undefeated. And I know
really good.
And I know a lot of people are talking about CBC, but I'm telling you what, Blue Springs South.
That's the matchup I'd love to see.
It is. Unfortunately, in a minute here, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Joplin is going to face Kickapoo, and then that winner will face Ozark and Ray-Pec face each other, but ultimately you're going to face Nixa coming out of that side. Unfortunately, looks like if they get that far, you're going to see Blue Springs South play Nixa before they get a chance to go to face off with CBC, and that's a shame. That something like that has to happen. But that's just really how it goes. And I know we were talking to somebody about Platte County and Rockhurst, and they're in the same little district, and so that's going to be tough for them as well.
Yeah, that's a tough draw for Rockhurst. I mean, they're good, but Platte County is really darn good.
Exactly. Francis Howell plays Fort Zumwalt West. Wentzville Liberty's doing really well this year. Good for them. They got some talent. Troy Buchanan and Francis Howell. St. Dominic, another team never gets talked about very much.
9-0.
9-0, man.
Machine.
They're just doing it.
College coaches. He's another guy that 2 years ago would have had offers galore.
Yep.
He's got a few, but not as many as he should.
Yep. Hazelwood Central and Rittner face off. Hazelwood West and Fort Francis Howell North. Couple of one win or no win teams there, so maybe somebody's going to come out victorious. And then Pattonville is the other one. We're really out of time, man. Time just goes by so fast once we start talking. Too fast. So you can check me out, JP Rock MO on X, JP Rock Scout you on Instagram. Matt, where can people reach you at?
Elite Football on X, Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
Absolutely. And check us out on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, on X as well. And where can people find out more about Get Offered?
Just Get Offered, OFFRD.com, getoffered.com.
Yep. And go check out Game Plan Strategies, Football Consulting, GPSfootball.org, GPS Strategies on X. Game Plan Strategies Consulting on Instagram. We'll talk more about all those things once we have another 48 minutes coming up next week. Check us out as well on KLIS 590 AM Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock. Enjoy ourselves. Everybody have a safe week, a happy Halloween. We didn't even talk about that, man. Football on Halloween.
Crazy.
That's good. It is going to be crazy. And everybody, we